Okay, now I've just finished more or less carving this set. I'm going to have you come over here and take a look. I've got extras here of what I'm using, which is called chalcedony. I always keep my extras in case I break some, or in case I lose one, or if somebody's bought this set from me, they can come back and spend a couple more dollars and I'll make them a new one of whatever they've lost. Now I lay out the set, once it's finished carving, I lay it out like this, simply so that you can see that you have all of them in all of their different rows ready to go upstairs for paint. Now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to take these upstairs and then we'll get to the inlay process. So let's go do that. Okay, so once you've got your runes carved, you can take them wherever you're comfortable putting in the inlay. Inlay is basically really simple. The reason for carving is so that the paint is not accessible to your fingers, so you can't rub it off. So you want to keep that in mind as to how deep you want to go, because how wide you want the runes to be. What I'm doing now is I'm pulling out a few options in color. Okay, you'll have to decide what inlay. Traditional is red. I don't think red looks good in everything, so I don't put it in everything. I have my own set of paints. If you've got paints that you like better than others, then use those. If you don't have paints, you can get them anywhere, and acrylic is easiest to work with. Oil-based paints, they last better, they last longer, but they are harder to clean up. I like acrylics because so long as I can't reach them, they're not going to rub off, but I don't have to have turpentine or mineral spirits to remove them. So I've got a couple of choices here. I'm going to think of a couple of more. I'm just going through some of my different colors here. Gold is usually a really good one for a lot of runes. Copper, in my opinion, looks really good in blues and purples, so I'm going to check that out. What I like to do is I like to pick out a few different colors, and then I'll grab a couple of different runes. Like if I grabbed this one as the odd man out, it's a lot more brown than the rest. But I'll look in and just kind of try and imagine the color inside the rune itself and what that rune would look like. So that one's not fantastic. I'm not going to use that. One of the things you have to keep in mind is the color you want to use. Is it going to stand out so that you can use them to read? Or is it going to be something that fades in and is difficult to use? Now the gold's looking pretty good, so I'm going to keep a hold of that. The copper's not bad, but it's too close to the color of this rune. This is just a specific example. I'm actually going to paint these runes here in a second. So since copper's no good, we're going to get that out of the way. There's a different color green. That's not bad, but it doesn't match well enough with everything. So I'm going to go ahead and pick my color, and then we'll get started once I've got that. Go ahead and stop. Okay, so I've picked my color. I'm going to go with this gold. One, it's easier for me to work with. It lasts a little bit longer. It's an acrylic water-based paint, so it's going to be real easy to work with. Now, one of the techniques that I've found for putting it in is just simply with a paintbrush, a small paintbrush. Keep a good tip. Get yourself some water. I'm going to need a little bit more here. But get yourself a cup of water so you can rinse your brush occasionally, because you're not going to finish the whole set without getting chunky stuff on the end of your bristles. That's going to get in your way, and it's going to be a source of aggravation. What you're going to do is you shake up your paint, make sure it's ready to go. Go ahead and open it up. I like to dip out of the cap because it makes less mess and I don't have to have an extra plate. Now you're going to find your rune and check the face of the rune for any natural cracks. You're going to want to avoid those while you're painting. Now one of the things you have to remember, very important, is to get the dust out of the rune. You can do this by scrubbing them underwater or rinsing them off, washing them, however you want to do it. I wouldn't suggest putting them in a dishwasher or anything like that, because you're more than likely to lose a couple of stones. My preferred method, just because it's lazy and I can do it to all 24 and not hurt myself, is I just like to blow the dust out. Make sure it's dry. That's why you've got paper towels. The other reason for paper towels is this. Once you take the brush, you're going to have it wet a little bit to start, just so you can get a nice point. I don't feel bad with paint on my lips. You get a little bit of the gold paint on there. And you're just going to paint directly over the rune and try and leave as much of the paint inside as you can. If you come out across the lines, it's going to be absolutely fine, because what you're going to do as soon as you're finished is just go across the lines as much as possible. See, I just followed the lines and it took more of it out than I wanted. But you're going to leave as much of the paint in as you can. And the easiest way I've found to remove the excess is just take your finger, wipe it across. Go across the lines, and it'll usually leave enough paint in there that it doesn't look bad. And if you need to touch up afterwards, that's perfectly fine. But then you're left with the rune in whatever color you've chosen. And you just repeat this for all the stones. Like I said, make sure you get the dust out of it. Make sure you check for any natural cracks in the stone, and you're going to avoid that, especially when you're wiping it off. You're going to avoid that as much as possible. Remove the dust. Get your paint. And fill in your carving. Once you've got this down, making a set of runes will only take you roughly, with a new bit and good paint, steady hand, a little persistence, shouldn't take you much more than an hour or two per set. It's not going to be a lucrative business if that's what you're getting into it for, but if you enjoy the runes and you want a set made by your own hand, it is rather fulfilling. And there you have it.